In the heart of the kingdom of Kundi, where the rivers whispered ancient tales and the mountains stood as silent guardians, Queen Amara reigned with the wisdom of ages, carrying the legacy of her brother, the late King Quaim, whose spirit roamed the forests as the black jaguar. Her kingdom, known for its fertile lands and serene beauty, had always been at peace, but the winds of change were stirring, carrying whispers of alliances, yet unmade, of bonds stronger than blood. To the south, King Zuberi of Marub, the younger brother of the late Queen Azania, had led his people through times of turmoil and strife, his leadership balanced with strength and compassion. His queen, Ramla, revered for her intellect and beauty, stood by his side, and together they had a son, Nilo, whose intellect and strength seemed to shine brighter than the stars. For years the kingdoms had lived in peace, but now Amara and Zuberi, understanding that peace could be a fleeting thing, had decided to unite their lands in an alliance, one forged by respect and the desire to protect their people. The air in both kingdoms was thick with anticipation, and as the joyous occasion approached, the people of Kundi and Marube gathered to celebrate in the streets, their voices rising in song, their feet moving in time to the rhythm of drums that echoed across the plains. Amara, though unmarried, had adopted a daughter, Sade, a young girl whose eyes sparkled with the wisdom of the ancients, her heart full of dreams that would one day shape the world. The celebration reached its peak, and as the night sky burned with the brilliance of countless stars, it seemed that the future of the two kingdoms was as bright as the sun itself. But just as the fires of joy burned highest, a dark shadow descended upon them. From the heart of the mountains, Vanu, the phoenix of fire, awoke, its wings ablaze with the fury of the earth itself. The great creature rose from the ancient flames that had long lain dormant, its body of fire scorching the land, turning lush forests into barren wastelands, and the very air seemed to burn with its presence. The people of Kundi and Marub, once rejoicing in the unity between their lands, now cried out in terror as their homes and crops were reduced to ash. In the midst of this chaos, Niazi, a shaman whose wisdom was said to rival that of the gods themselves, appeared before the royal family. His eyes were as ancient as the earth, and his voice carried the weight of prophecy. Vanu is not merely a creature of flesh and blood, Niazi warned, but a force of nature, a living flame that consumes all in its path. To contain it, you must find the Totem of Ancestors, hidden deep within the sacred forest near the Mountain of Ancestors. But beware for the cult of Juma, who have abandoned the teachings of our ancestors, now serve the Phoenix, believing that by aiding it, they will be granted eternal glory. Amara's heart sank as she looked at the devastation surrounding them. Yet she knew the journey ahead was their only hope. Turning to Nilo and Sade, her voice was steady but filled with the unspoken fear of a mother. "We will stop this fire," she vowed, "but we must leave at once." With Zuberi's hand on his son's shoulder, the promise of their return was sealed. "We will return, my son, when this darkness is no more." And so, with Niazi guiding them, the royal family set out into the unknown, the path before them shrouded in peril and uncertainty, but their resolve firm and their spirits unbroken. The Phoenix's flames, fierce and relentless, would not cease, but they knew the strength of their unity and the love they shared for their kingdoms would be the fire that would outlast the Phoenix's rage. With the royal family united and their resolve stronger than the flames of Vanu, they set forth on their journey into the sacred forest, the place where ancient magic slept beneath the earth, and the winds carried the whispers of the ancestors. Niazi, the shaman, led them through the dense foliage, his steps light and purposeful, as though the very earth had come to greet him. The forest was unlike any other, its towering trees so ancient that their trunks seemed to pulse with the energy of the earth itself, their branches whispering secrets in languages long forgotten by the living. As they walked deeper into the heart of the forest, the air grew thick with the scent of earth and moss, and the sky above seemed to close in, casting shadows that felt alive with the presence of unseen spirits. The weight of their mission pressed down on them, but it was a burden they bore willingly, for they knew that their kingdoms, their people, and the future of the world rested in their hands. Zuberi, his eyes scanning the path ahead, spoke softly to his queen. "Ramla, the journey will test us, my love, and the forest will show us who we truly are," he said, his voice filled with both strength and the quiet fear of the unknown. Ramla, ever calm and wise, nodded, her gaze never wavering. "We are not alone," she replied, her voice steady. "The ancestors walk with us, and so long as we stay true to ourselves, we will find our way." Amara, walking beside them, felt the weight of their words in her heart. She had always known that ruling was not about power, but about protection and sacrifice. Now more than ever, she understood that the love for her people was the fire that could drive her to the very ends of the earth, if need be. Nilo, her adopted son, walked ahead, his young face set in determination, though his heart carried the burden of uncertainty. "Do you think we can really stop Vanu?" he asked, his voice filled with the kind of doubt only a child could voice in the midst of such chaos. Ramla, seeing the worry in his eyes, bent down to him, her touch gentle on his shoulder. "Sometimes the greatest strength is not in the sword or the magic, but in the heart," she said softly. "We must fight with courage, but more importantly, we must fight with love for the world we want to protect." Said, Amara's adopted daughter, walked close to her eyes wide with wonder and fear. She had never known a world outside the peaceful lands of Kundi, and now she was about to witness the very forces of nature unleashed in all their fury. "Amara, will we be able to stop the fire?" she asked, her voice trembling, but there was a quiet strength in her eyes that belied her age. Amara looked down at her heart swelling with love. "We will, Said, we must, and we will return home together," she promised. The journey through the sacred forest was long, and as the days passed, the forest seemed to grow darker, the trees closing in, their twisted branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The path ahead was not easy. The forest itself seemed to test their resolve, with each step bringing them closer to the unknown. The deeper they traveled, the more they could feel the weight of the spirits watching over them, the ancestors whose presence was felt in every rustling leaf and creaking branch. It was then that the winds shifted, and a voice deep and resonant echoed through the trees. "Who dares enter the realm of the ancestors?" the voice boomed, sending a shiver through the party. The voice was not of a mortal, but something far older, something that had witnessed the rise and fall of kingdoms. Zuberi, ever the protector, stepped forward, his hand on his sword. "We seek the Totem of Ancestors," he declared boldly. "We seek to stop the Phoenix and save our world from destruction." The voice laughed, a sound that seemed to come from every direction, a deep and terrifying sound. "You seek what is not yours to take," it rumbled. "The Phoenix is the true ruler of this land, and none can stop its fire." From the shadows of the trees emerged a figure, cloaked in darkness, his eyes burning with the intensity of the very flames they sought to stop. It was Juma, the leader of the cult of fire, and his presence brought with it an air of madness. "The Phoenix will burn the world," Juma said, his voice laced with a dangerous passion. "And from the ashes we, his chosen ones, will rise and rule. You are too weak to stop what has already begun." Zuberi's grip on his sword tightened, his muscles coiled with the energy of a warrior preparing for battle. "You would destroy the world for power?" he asked, his voice filled with both disgust and determination. Juma's smile was cold, his eyes glinting with the fervor of one who had lost all touch with reason. "The world must burn," he replied, "and when it does, we will reign as gods." The royal family, though shaken by the cult's madness, stood firm. Niazi, his face etched with the weight of the centuries, raised his hands to the sky and called upon the power of the ancestors. "The fire may burn bright," he said, his voice a calm and steady anchor in the midst of the storm. "But it will be extinguished, for the heart of the world will never be consumed by flames." And so the battle began. It was a fight not just for survival, but for the future of the world. A fight that would decide whether the flames of destruction or the light of unity would prevail. Juma and his cult, driven by madness, fought fiercely, but the royal family stood together, united by love and purpose, knowing that the future of their kingdoms depended on their strength and their resolve. With each blow struck, with each chant of Niazi's incantations, the cult's power began to wane, and in the end they were forced to retreat, their twisted beliefs shattered by the unyielding will of the United Kingdoms. Juma's voice echoed through the forest as he disappeared into the shadows, vowing that the Phoenix would rise again. But for now the royal family had won. The path to the Mountain of Ancestors remained open, and their journey was far from over. The journey to the Mountain of Ancestors grew ever more treacherous, but the royal family, though weary from the trials they had already faced, pressed forward with unwavering resolve. The deeper they ventured into the sacred forest, the more the land seemed to shift around them, as if the very trees and stones had come alive to test their strength and purpose. The fire of Vanu, though distant, could still be seen on the horizon, its fiery tendrils licking the sky, casting an eerie glow over the landscape. It was in these woods, beneath the canopy of ancient trees, that the final confrontation with the cult of Juma would take place. As they neared the base of the Mountain of Ancestors, the air grew thick with tension, the very earth beneath them vibrating with the power of the conflict that loomed ahead. Niazi, walking ahead with the grace of a man who had walked this path many times before, turned to face the family, his eyes dark with the weight of his knowledge. "We are not only fighting against Vanu's flames," he warned. "We are fighting against the madness of those who have abandoned the wisdom of our ancestors, those who believe they can control the fire. The cult will stop at nothing to see the phoenix rise, even if it means the destruction of the world itself." Zuberi, his brow furrowed in determination, gripped the hilt of his sword tightly. "Then we will stop them, Niazi," he said, his voice resolute. "We will fight for the future of our kingdoms and for the generations to come." Amara, her eyes set with fierce conviction, nodded in agreement. "We have already come too far to turn back now. The phoenix will be contained, and the cult will not have their way." Sade, though young and still burdened by the uncertainty of the world, felt a growing sense of purpose in her heart. "We are all in this together," she said softly, her voice filled with the quiet strength of one who had already seen the destructive power of Vanu's flames. "And we will fight together." The final confrontation came swiftly, as the royal family reached the foot of the Mountain of Ancestors. From the shadows of the rocks, the cult emerged, their eyes burning with the same feverish intensity as the flames that had ravaged the kingdoms. Juma stood at their head, his presence commanding and dark. "You are too late," he sneered, his voice like the hiss of a snake. "The phoenix is already on its way to destroy the world, and there is nothing you can do to stop it. The fire will cleanse the earth, and from the ashes we shall reign." The royal family stood firm, their hearts unshaken by Juma's words. Zuberi raised his sword, his voice cutting through the tension. "You will not destroy our world," he declared. "You are not the chosen ones. You are merely lost souls, too blinded by your own greed to see the truth. The phoenix may burn, but it will not consume everything. We will protect what is ours, and we will restore balance to the earth." And with that, the battle began. The cult, though powerful in their twisted faith, were no match for the unity of the royal family. As Zuberi and Amara fought side by side, their movements a fluid dance of precision and strength, Niazi chanted the ancient incantations that filled the air with a pulsing energy, as though the very earth itself was responding to his words. The cult members fought with a madness that made them reckless, but the royal family fought with purpose, their hearts aligned with the love they had for their people and the land they protected. Sad, though small and untested in battle, stood beside Nilo, her eyes fierce and her spirit burning bright. "We fight for our home," Nilo said, his voice a whisper but filled with the power of their shared bond. Together, they faced the cult's fiercest warriors, their courage unbroken as the flames of Vanu flickered in the distance, threatening to engulf everything in its path. As the battle raged on, it was clear that the cult's strength was fading. Their faith in the phoenix's power was no match for the love and unity that bound the royal family. One by one, the cult members fell, retreating into the shadows from which they had come. Juma, his face twisted in rage, took a step back, his eyes narrowing as he realized his plans were crumbling. "This is not over," he shouted, his voice laced with venom. "The phoenix will rise again, and when it does, you will all burn." But Zuberi, standing tall and unyielding, did not flinch. "We will be here to stop it, Juma," he said, his voice steady as the mountain itself. "And when the phoenix is contained, you will be nothing but a memory." And so the battle ended. The royal family had triumphed, not through sheer force, but through the strength of their unity and the unwavering belief that love, not fire, would shape the future. The cult of Juma had been defeated, and the path to the Mountain of Ancestors lay open before them. But the final test, the true battle against Vanu, still awaited. With the cult of Juma scattered, and their twisted ambitions crushed beneath the weight of the royal family's unity, the path to the Mountain of Ancestors was finally open, though the air was thick with the promise of an even greater trial. The flames of Vanu, which had burned so brightly across Kundi and Marub, still flickered on the horizon, casting an orange glow over the land as the phoenix's fiery wings spread across the sky. The earth trembled beneath the weight of its power, and the wind carried with it the heat of its fury. But the royal family, guided by Niazi, pressed onward, their steps sure and resolute. The mountain loomed before them, its towering peak shrouded in mist, a place where few had ever dared to tread. Legend spoke of its sacredness, where the spirits of the ancestors were said to dwell, watching over the world and guiding the worthy. As they neared the summit, the air grew colder, the wind biting at their skin, yet their hearts remained warm with the fire of determination. The Totem of Ancestors, the only hope to contain Vanu, was close, but they knew the phoenix would not yield so easily. The closer they got to the summit, the more the ground beneath them seemed to vibrate with the energy of the phoenix, its presence like a storm waiting to break. It was then that the great roar of Vanu echoed through the mountains, a sound that shook the very heavens and made the earth tremble beneath their feet. From the depths of the mountain, the phoenix emerged, its wings blazing with the fire of 1,000 suns, its eyes glowing with the intensity of its rage. "You dare challenge me?" Vanu's voice was a roar of flames and fury, its voice echoing through the skies. "I am the fire that will cleanse the world. No mortal can contain me." But Amara, Zuberi, Ramla, and Niazi stood firm, their resolve unwavering in the face of the phoenix's fury. "We will stop you, Vanu," Zuberi said, his voice firm as stone, his sword raised high. "This land will not burn. The love of our people will never be consumed by your flames." Amara stepped forward, her heart steady as she faced the fire itself. "We are not afraid," she said, her voice carrying the weight of the ancestors. "We fight for our people, for the future, for the generations yet to come." Niazi, his hands raised to the sky, began chanting the ancient words of the ancestors, his voice a steady pulse that resonated with the very earth beneath them. As he spoke, the mountain itself seemed to respond, the air growing thick with the energy of ages past. The Totem of Ancestors, a relic of unimaginable power, appeared before them, its surface glowing with a light so pure that it seemed to banish the darkness of the world. But even as the totem appeared, Vanu was not so easily deterred. With a mighty roar, it surged forward, its fiery wings creating a storm that sent the royal family staggering back. "You cannot stop me," Vanu cried, its voice now a deafening roar of pure fury. "I am the fire that will consume everything." But Niazi, his voice unwavering, continued his chant, his hands tracing ancient symbols in the air. The totem began to glow brighter, its energy filling the air with a pulse that matched the very rhythm of the earth. Zuberi and Amara stood side by side, their swords raised in defiance, their hearts full of the love they had for their kingdoms. "We are the light that will drive away the darkness," Amara declared, her voice a steady force of nature. "We are the ones who will protect our world." The battle between the phoenix and the royal family raged on, the flames of Vanu clashing against the strength of their unity. It was a battle of fire and spirit, of destruction and preservation, and in the end the strength of their love and resolve was the fire that proved stronger than the phoenix's flames. With a final deafening roar, Vanu was pulled into the Totem of Ancestors, its fiery wings vanishing into the totem's glowing surface, its power contained by the ancient magic of the earth. The mountain trembled, the sky cleared, and for the first time in days the air was still, the land quiet. The royal family stood, their bodies weary, but their spirits alight with the triumph of their victory. They had saved their kingdoms, and the world had been spared from the ravages of the phoenix. The people of Kundi and Marube rejoiced, their laughter and song filling the air, as the two kingdoms were united not only in name, but in spirit, their future brighter than ever before. The Totem of Ancestors, though still pulsing with power, remained sealed, a reminder of the battle they had fought, the sacrifices they had made, and the strength of their unity. As Amara, Zuberi, Ramla, Niazi, Sadi, and Nilo made their way back to the kingdoms they had sworn to protect, they knew that peace would not last forever, but it would endure as long as their love for each other and their people remained steadfast. And so the story of the Phoenix, of the battle against fire and darkness, became a legend passed down through generations, reminding all who heard it that even in the face of the greatest trials, the light of love and unity would always prevail.